How's everyone doing, guys? Welcome back to Let's Chat Football. My name is Dylan, and in today's video, I needed to talk about Brentford. I just feel like they deserve their flowers so far this season, and I don't think that many people or pundits in particular have given them the credit that they deserve. In fact, I don't believe any pundit has actually come out and bigged up Keith Andrews and the job that he's doing at Brentford. There seems to be a big six bias in the media, and I feel like not enough attention is given to clubs like Brentford, especially when a lot of people would have predicted Brentford to go down this season. I think it's only fair, really, to go back to the start of the season, even before the season started, and just give a bit of context to the feeling around Brentford at the time. From the outside looking in, it looked like it was a summer of huge loss for the club. They had lost Thomas Frank to Spurs. They had lost their captain, Christian Norgard, to Arsenal. They also lost their two main goal scorers in Wissa and Mbuemo to Newcastle and Man United. So, yeah, going into this season, I wouldn't say a lot of people would have said that Brentford would do well, or if anything, I'd say a lot of people would have tipped them for relegation. So then the news breaks that Keith Andrews, who was the set-piece coach in the previous season, has been appointed as the new manager. And I remember at the time thinking that there just seemed to be a lot of negative media attention to this appointment. I just felt like there was a lot of disrespect shown towards Keith Andrews at the time. There was people kind of mocking the whole set piece coach tag that he was labelled with, almost like, oh well, he's a set piece coach, so that means he can't be a good manager. But yeah, I just got the feeling that a lot of people and a lot of pundits just completely disregarded his credentials before he even started his new job as manager. An upcoming Irish manager trying to get through in the English game. You know, it's just that extra kind of red tape, I suppose, to get the praise that you deserve. So you fast forward to the end of the transfer window and you look at some of the new recruits that Brentford had brought into the club to replace some of the old guard. Ian Kelleher, another fellow Irishman, he was brought in from Liverpool, where he was, I'd say, a more than capable number 2 goalkeeper, but he was brought in to Brentford to replace Fleckin as a number 1. A huge step up in responsibility for him, but it's a responsibility that I feel Quivine has thrived on this season, and he's proved a great buy. He started every game for Brentford in the Premier League except for one game where I believe his partner gave birth, but other than that, he's just been a consistent, brilliant goalkeeper. Michael Coyote was brought in from Fiorentina. Now, I'll be honest, I didn't know much about the player before he signed for Brentford, but I definitely noticed him the first time that I watched Brentford play, and when he stepped up for a long throw where he hit the 6-yard box like with ease, like with absolute ease, and it just got me thinking. I can't remember a player that could throw the ball that far. He definitely give Rory Delap, I'd say, a run for his money, because it's just the mother of long throws, just unbelievable. An absolute cheat code for Brentford this season. They then bought Jordan Henderson, I believe, on a free transfer from Ajax. Now, Jordan Henderson isn't your flashy technical player, but I believe every successful team needs a player like a Jordan Henderson. And I believe his role in that Liverpool team that won all what they did under Klopp, it definitely, not that it goes unnoted, but I believe he played a bigger part in their success than many would probably give him credit for. But nevertheless, he's just one of those consistent, reliable midfield players that you just love to have in your squad. And I think it was a real coup by Keith Andrews in getting them in. Given that experience and that leadership, it's invaluable to have a player like that in your squad. Just an all-round top professional, you know. They bought Dango Ouattara as their big money attacking signing. Now, so far, I don't believe he's had the most unbelievable campaign, but with 12 goal contributions, he's played his part, and he's definitely an important member in this well-oiled Brentford machine. I would say in 2026, this calendar year, since he's come back from the African Cup of Nations, he's been a great player for Brentford. But yeah, you look then at like some of their other attacking options, and Kevin Schade, he's a player that I really like. He very direct player, willing runner, good finisher. They also have Igor Thiago, who had a bad ACL injury the season before, and this is his first proper season in the Premier League where he's got a consistent run of games, and he's been one of the standouts in the league, I would say, overall, and he currently sits, I believe, 3 goals behind Haaland in the Golden Boot race. Who's to say that he can't catch him? Unlikely, but you never know. We then look at like some of their other players that are in the squad and have been there for a number of years. Damsgaard, Janelt, Jensen, Lewis Potter. A lot of these players, like their names, and even the way they play, they're not like flashy players, but I would say these are like very dependable, trustworthy players to have as a manager. And look, I don't know these guys personally, but just from the outside looking in, I'd say they're a very good bunch of lads to work with. And fair play to Keith Andrews for galvanising them together and really pushing on this season. Because the mad thing is, really, they're not far off a Champions League spot. I'm looking at the Premier League table at the moment, and they sit 3 points behind Liverpool, who are in fifth. I think fifth place is looking like it's going to get you Champions League for next season. When you look at like the form of Chelsea, Liverpool, there's so much inconsistency between them. And you look at the form of Brentford, I believe in their last 15 matches, they've got 7 wins, 5 draws, and 3 losses. That's the type of form that it might well actually be good enough to get a Champions League spot when you look at the inconsistency of the other teams. And like had they beaten Leeds in their last match, they'd be sitting a point behind Liverpool right now, right on their tails. It's quite incredible, really. And with what, 7 or 8 games left in the season, could they sneak in? Maybe they could. I just have nothing but admiration for Keith Andrews and the work that he's doing. Maybe it's because the style that he implements, it's not always like great on the eye. It can not be aesthetically pleasing sometimes to watch Brentford, but I believe that the way that Andrews has them set up, it's very effective. They're great users of the long throw, very direct. They make the most out of every set piece, and they're very strong on set pieces. And maybe that's why they're not getting their flowers. Maybe the football purists are maybe just frowning upon their style. But yeah, I just feel like when you look at like other teams like a Bournemouth under Areola, and they sometimes get lauded because of their style and people like the way that they play, or maybe Crystal Palace under Glasner when they were getting into Europe and doing very well, or even this season with Sunderland, who I'd say a lot of people have a soft spot for. Those kind of clubs get their credit, but when it comes to Brentford, people tend to kind of fall short in giving them praise. And look, they might finish the season poorly and maybe finish mid-table, which is still a success for a club like Brentford. But who knows? They might get a Champions League spot. They might get a Europa League spot. They might get a Europa Conference League spot. For a club like Brentford, who have only been promoted to the Premier League in, I think it was 2021, and they've never tasted European football before, that would be quite a substantial achievement for a club that many would have probably tipped for relegation before a ball was even kicked. And you know what? I'm rooting them to do it. I'm rooting them to get into Europe. Look, I think maybe a Champions League spot could be too far, but I definitely think they could get a Europa League spot. When you look in the table, them and Everton are quite close. They might just get it, you know. Maybe it's my Irish roots and I'm being kind of somewhat patriotic, and I just want a fellow Irishman to do well in the Premier League. For a club like Brentford and a manager like Keith Andrews to be sitting where they are right now in what is arguably the toughest league in the world, fair play. Like, just fair play to them. And it would be a pure underdog story if they were to go on and finish as high up as they can and get a European place. So yeah, if you enjoyed the video, then please comment below where you think Brentford will finish this season. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on Let's Chat Football.